Hi, this is Joe Reboy again for Studio Kaiju, Kaiju After Hours, and I'm talking to a nice gentleman who scared the hell out of me in the 1970s when I saw a movie of his that comes from the 1960s on a UHF station. I'm talking to Arch Hall Jr., who did a few films in the 1960s working with a family business and then went on to other careers, and he's very graciously taken the time to talk to me here in Cleveland. Mr. Hall,
yes.
You started making movies with your father in a family business through the early 60s. How did that business generate?
Well, it basically was my dad's dream to be returned to the picture business and make movies. He was an actor in the 30s, late 30s, and all through the early 40s, and then left Hollywood to do other things, and then returned to it in his 50s. So he finally found what he liked to do, and that was to make movies. And they were low-budget independent movies, starting in '59 and ending in '64. And I was pretty much a part of each and every one.
What types of films did he do?
Well, he did mostly cowboy movies. He was a rodeo rider and a stuntman and a good cowboy type, and so he played with John Wayne and Ray Crash Corrigan, a lot of the big names in the 1938, 39, 40, 41, 42. Well, actually, 41, and after Pearl Harbor, he joined the Army Air Corps. So, and then he came back at 45, did some films, and then went on to other things, broadcasting, and then didn't return to it until 59. So
then your father set up this family business, and you started out with, I believe, a film that was released in '61, which was Chopper, where you played a juvenile delinquent as part of a gang, correct?
That's correct. It was the first film he made, and then had some difficulty releasing it, so then he had to realize he needed to make a second film, so then he had a double bill. So he made Ega, and then after the movie Ega was made, then he had a double bill, and he could release them. So then Choppers and Ega were released as a double bill.
So in other words, in order to get into a drive-in at that time, you had to provide at least two films.
Yeah, you had to really have the whole bill. You had to own the bill, and to have another film or to split it with another producer or another company, it was more difficult, and it was much more difficult to sell and to distribute. So that's why it happened that way.
Now, was acting part of something that you were interested in getting into?
Sort of, yeah. But it was just something that I grew up in. Father's business was the movie business, and I sort of was drafted, you might say.
Well, when you went on to do a few films later, a film that, as I said, scared the heck out of me, The Sadist, you certainly gave a powerhouse performance. I understand the character that you played was based loosely on the serial killer Charles Starkweather?
That's somewhat true, yeah, somewhat true. It was from an original screenplay by James Landis, and he drew a little bit from that, but not completely, although the name Charlie was certainly there. But not too many similarities at all, other than the name, I think.
So, let's see. Basically, the types of films that you played in were each one was a different type of film. It wasn't the same genre over and over again. You played a guitar player, which I guess is something close to you, in Wild Guitar.
That's true.
Then, you also had the spy spoof Nasty Rabbit, which I'm not familiar with. I have to apologize.
Yeah, it's a kind of a spoof comedy on the Cold War, the Russians and everything, and there was a lot of comedy gags in it that were sort of over the top and that were fun. It wasn't a serious movie. It was a fun movie, and again, aimed at drive-ins and that sort of genre.
And then you tried your hand at a Western with Deadwood 76.
Correct. That was the last movie I made in '64, and it was actually a very good Western made on location in South Dakota in the Black Hills and on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, and with real Sioux Indians, and it's a great little Western. Westerns weren't too popular during that period of time, so it is probably one of the least popular of the movies that I made, but it's one of the best quality movies.
Now, when we spoke earlier, you said that you only made a handful of films because the business end of this venture didn't go the way your father had hoped for, correct?
Well, it's a long story. There's more to it than that, but essentially the business sort of came to an end, and my father sold distribution to television, and then the movies went on from there, and he had his bills to pay, you might say, and sold off his rights to the films eventually. And so there's a period of time then when he lost control of the film. And since then, the films have gone to public domain, so it can be anybody's film now.
So you don't actually own the films anymore?
No, nobody does. No.
All right. So how do you feel when you see one of your films show up on Turner Classic?
Oh, it's fine. It brings back a lot of old memories and good times with people, and I enjoyed that period in my life. And I look forward to reminiscing, and I'm real tickled that people out there enjoy the films and like to revisit them in their new format.
Now, after you did the movies, you went on to become a pilot, Flying Tigers, I believe it was?
Yes, yeah. For about 37 years, I was a pilot for Flying Tigers and then FedEx, retiring in 2003.
And then that gave you some background to write Apsa Ra, a novel about a Vietnam, see if I get this right, novel about a Vietnam vet who through his flying, gets involved in the drug trade. Roughly
correct. Yeah, it's a sort of a naughty book, and it's about narco trafficking in Southeast Asia, and it's not for everybody, but for people that like a little naughty adventure, it's pretty good. So
you're going to keep writing?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I write when I'm inspired to write. Right now, I'm not very inspired, so I'm doing other things. So.
Well, let me ask: has anyone asked you to go back and make movies anymore?
I've got a couple things brewing, but I'd rather not talk about it at the time. It's something might come up in the next 18 months. But.
Okay, well, we might have an exclusive here. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Hall.
Thanks,
I appreciate it.
Thanks.
And thank you for those great films. Like I say, it was the best experience being scared to death by that.
Okay, thank you.